I'm joined now by our Lisa Evers from Fox 5, who's been in there more than I feel like anybody else has been in there. Can you just talk a little bit about what has happened this morning? How long did it take to get the jury to go to the deliberation?
Well, this morning, Judge Arun Subramanian, who's been the judge in this case, he instructed the jury. It's called a jury charge. He went through point by point with the laws that Combs allegedly broke with these charges and how they should consider them, giving them instructions about how to handle it. And it's just, Arthur, it's a day that like a lot of people thought, would never come at some points, because this trial is gone on for almost 2 months. So, there were dozens of witnesses, and then about 11:30 they moved into the around that time, not exactly, but right around that time, they moved into the jury room to begin deliberations. He's the judge. I want to say something about him in terms of the charges, because he's been very much trying to keep everything on track in terms of time, giving both the prosecution and the defense time when they needed it, giving jurors time to take breaks when they needed them, and just making sure that the whole movement was leading up into this day. And here we are, they're deliberating.
Did he spend any sort of emphasis on any of those 3 categories of charges, or was it pretty even?
I think more time, I wasn't watching it on the clock because I'm like listening and taking notes and everything, I think that the most important one was the RICO, because that's the most serious one that comes with the heaviest penalties, that could come with life behind bars if he's found guilty of that, or certainly decades upon decades. And there's one RICO, there's counts, and a lot of people are confused about this too. There's 3 charges, but there's a total of 5 counts. There's one count on the racketeering, which is the RICO. There's 2 counts on the sex trafficking. There's 2 counts on the transportation across state lines for prostitution. Right. So that's your 5 right there. So they have to consider each one separately.
And do you agree with what legal analysts have told us so far, that the racketeering charge is going to be the toughest one for them to consider? That the transporting sex workers across state line, there was evidence that happened, and then somewhere in the middle?
Arthur, I could argue either way on each of those points, because initially people were saying no way are they going to get RICO, and then they were like, they don't have the evidence that the Bad Boy Worldwide, Combs' entire company, was a criminal enterprise. I mean, the guy was making hit records, he was running all these businesses, he had all these lifestyle brands, he had the clothing brand, all of these things that were generating millions of dollars, actually so much money that he was on the billionaire list a number of times. So that one's a complex one. On the other hand, other attorneys that I've spoken to who have tried these cases and who follow these cases very closely, these RICO cases, said that at least depending upon the prosecution, depending upon the jury, they only need to have 2 predicate acts, evidence of 2 crimes, to support that RICO. So it's not as hard as everybody thinks. It really depends a lot on the jury.
Okay, a couple last questions. What does the jury look like to you? Does the makeup of 8 men, 4 women matter to you? Do they look engaged today? Do they look tired?
Oh no, they were very, very engaged, and I think really ready for this day. Because the judge said too, this was something that did raise a few eyebrows. Like the 3rd or 4th time he said it. He wants to have this whole trial done by the 4th of July. There's no court on Friday because it's a federal holiday. We've learned from sources that July 3rd, it's not a federal holiday, but this court building, this 500-pearl court building, is scheduled for an administrative closure. But I learned from sources that they will allow it to be open. They will have a section open so the jury can continue deliberating if they have not decided by Wednesday night. So.
And finally, we should point out, Sean Diddy Combs has pleaded not guilty to all these charges.
Vehemently pleaded not guilty, and I think, Arthur, that's the other thing too. Again, this tale of 2 different stories, and the prosecution has maintained these are many criminal acts. They showed the Cassie video, that horrific hotel beating video, numerous times, and then the defense and saying that he's a criminal mastermind. The defense, on the other hand, saying that he's being prosecuted for his kinky threesome swinger lifestyle. These were all consenting adults, and yes, he's been abusive towards women. He's been physically violent. He has a drug problem. Basically not the greatest guy in the world, but he's definitely not guilty of these charges. So we'll see what the jury buys.
Right. Seems like they agree on the same facts, but just the perspective of it that's different. Is it racketeering? Is it criminal, right?
Day and night.
Right?
Day and night.
But the same facts. Okay,
exactly.
We're going to let Lisa Evers get back to work inside the courthouse. We're going to be covering this extensively, both on web, on Fox 5, on all of our resources. So stay with us, and we'll see how it goes. That's the latest from down here at the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan. Lisa Evers, Arthur Chan. We'll talk to you guys later.